We respectfully acknowledge that this podcast was recorded on the unceded ancestral lands of the Lheidli T'enneh First Nation, on whose land we live, work, and play.
Hello and welcome to Confessions of a Nerdy Girl, the podcast where we talk about all things nerdy. I'm your host, Pam Muir, and before we get into today's episode, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and where we're shooting from. So, I'm Pam. I grew up in Prince George, British Columbia, Canada. That's a small town in the center of BC, the westernmost province of Canada. We're the biggest center in the north. And we're about an hour and a half away from a bunch of smaller towns. So for those that might be familiar with BC and geography, well, we're kind of isolated up here. It's a very unique place. We have a very unique culture and a very large nerdy community, which growing up here, I didn't actually know existed until I moved back about 10 years ago. It was kind of fun. A little bit about me. I'm a nerd. I'm a geek. I use both interchangeably. I also didn't admit that I was a nerd or a geek until I was probably after high school in my 20s. And that's when I really started to embrace who I was and just accept it. But I did know that I was different because I always marched to the beat of my own drum. And it made life really, really interesting. So come along as we explore what it's like to be a nerd in a small town. Today's guest is Brock Perri. He is a local member of the live action role-playing or LARP community. Please join me in welcoming Brock. Brock, thank you so much for being on the show. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
No problem. To make a long story short and to add my sense of humor, I'm a 41-year-old Italian plumber and who also enjoys cosplay, LARP, Dungeons and Dragons, Halo, any sort of video games, and has a crippling Netflix addiction. So,
I think we hit almost all the millennial stereotypes in that one sentence.
As the joke goes, I'm a video game protagonist. I'm straight, white, and male. If I was blonde, I'd be a JRPG protagonist.
And for our viewers, tell us what JRPG means.
Japanese role-playing game. Final Fantasy.
Oh, okay. There we go. So me being a natural blonde, I would probably fit in almost all those categories except for the male.
Correct.
Category.
But your hair color actually puts you more into the current love interest of the main characters, because for some strange reason, most of them are brunette.
Oh. Well, that's a twist I didn't see coming. So tell us, how did you get into LARP?
I have wanted to do LARPing ever since I discovered what it is. It really just is amazingly large amounts of fun. You get to enact your D&D characters in a way that just feels more real, more acting. It's kind of like I would almost say an evolution of cosplay or any type of murder mystery that you may have done. Anything that gives you a vague character to play, it's like a step up from that. As someone who didn't do wasn't a drama kid in high school long time ago and whatnot, and has only minimal playtime in pretending to be someone else other than D&D and online games. It's a great way to get out there. Also, it's the physicality aspect. You're embodying the character. You're trying to bring it forward. It's a lot more fun, I find, actually, than standard role-playing games. And then in Prince George, there wasn't a LARP about 7.5 years ago, I believe, give or take. My sense of time is a little wonky. And there was some talk at some conventions and stuff about LARP and how it. People wanted to start one. Nobody could figure out what rule set to use, and so there was lots of discussions here, there, and then who would be in charge, who would do the paperwork, who would be the quest masters, and who would be in charge of things and whatnot. And they never really seemed to go very far. They'd get to a certain point, and then they would kind of collapse on their own weight, because running a LARP is actually a decent amount of paperwork. And,
all good things are.
And it also, as I jokingly like to say, it helps if you were a dungeon master in D&D, because you're used to corralling cats, with, like, the players as they try to be murder hobos and stuff. It's kind of the same with LARP, only you're dealing with people and then their fantasy characters, which can be 9 times out of 10 chaotic neutral.
It's the best class to play.
No, it is not. I hate chaotic neutral so much, but that's just me. So what was it? I believe there was 8 to 12 people. We all answered an online thing, and to meet at Denny's to discuss. It's like, who is interested in LARP? Who'd be interested in trying to start a LARP? And we met in a Denny's. We had a huge conversation. I think it was well over an hour, and then we just group of people that wanted to LARP. We picked a rule set. That we had another guy who had LARPed in Alberta. He had come over, and then we just he's like, I know this rule set, I'll help you. We chose that rule set, which is called Amp Guard, and then and then afterwards we're like, show of hands, who wants to be in charge and do stuff. And I love attention sometimes a little too much, so I was like, me. And I just kind of and then I was like, this can't be too hard. I mean, I've been a dungeon master for D&D groups for since I started playing D&D at 13. So it was just, I was like, wow, can't be that hard. And other than a little bit of finessing, it wasn't. And then that group was eventually took the name Northern Grove and has been running ever since.
Nice. Sounds like, and you guys still have a good core group of players.
Yes, definitely. There's a large amount of people. At our height, we had 27 regulars. Unfortunately, pandemic did a lot to destroy that, but It did wrecked a lot of things. And then we've had a bit of a down and then come up again, whatnot. And then we joined other groups. So now we're part of a community. Down south as well, in, for example, Kamloops and the Lower Mainland, and then over in Edmonton, and then some groups in our cousins beyond the border in Washington. So we're now part of a kingdom.
Nice. So that would be why I see on Facebook it's a barony.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're part of the kingdom now.
Yes, and the barony is the size of the how many people you have. It's good with attendance and whatnot.
Yeah. So did you always know you were a nerd? Like, you said that you started Dungeons and Dragons at 13. Confession for me, I tried. Because my parents had like a 3rd generation Dungeons and Dragons kit.
Ooh.
They didn't want to play with me. My friends thought that I was just completely out to lunch and what is this? And so did you always know you were a nerd, or did you kind of grow into it?
I loved reading fantasy books growing up. What is it? Narnia, Dragonlance. Dragonlance was a big one. I still have a huge collection of those. And then anything fantasy based, and then eventually sci-fi, but beside the point. And then my stepdad was a bit of a gamer. He played those hexagonal games.
I think I know the ones you're talking about.
Past.
Yeah.
And I would voraciously read the rule books. And was like, I wonder if I can make my own game. And then eventually, just one Christmas, I told my parents, it's like, I'd like to play D&D, and then I got a whole set of rule books. And
nice.
Then I was in high school. I was short. I had really thick, like really big glasses, as was the style way back then.
Yep.
And braces, and I was tiny. I was like, I swear to God, I must have been. Probably not It was probably like five. I feel like I was like 5'3", probably wasn't, or some just tiny.
You were just
kid.
lower on the growth spurt level.
Yes, got the height later, but no. So I was, and I loved reading and minor bits of writing back then, and then cartoons and whatnot, and I just really enjoyed it. And then we got the books, and then because my friends were also kind of nerdy, kind of outcasty, and we just kind of and I was like, who wants to play? And then everyone's like, oh, and I'm like, I'll do a game, and because I own the books.
It makes sense if you own the books that you're going to become the dungeon master.
My friends were like, oh, we don't have the books. I'm like, well, and I voraciously read them, like every page, and it was 3rd edition. It just had come out, so I didn't get to do 2nd edition, so I never learned Thaco or anything.
And I didn't join playing until 5th edition, so.
Which is perfectly fine, as long as we don't discuss 4th, because nobody will play
4th. No. 4th is just a blip.
Insult a whole bunch of people now by saying 4th. But no, it was something I just kind of grew into a little bit with the confidence, and then having, friends that were also into that sort of thing. And, it became part of some things we did on weekends and whatnot was play D&D. And then when we weren't playing multiplayer games or whatnot, getting together and making, what was it? One of us, my buddy Eric, had a PlayStation. We're playing that really hard to find game nowadays, Armored Core, and we'd make different things, and then different mecha and stuff, or random games, just anything. And D&D became one of the staples. It was something we could play all at once. Great times, amazing stories, so I guess I just kind of worked. It was there, and then it just kind of, I got the ability to move in different directions. My mom always made me whatever costume I wanted for Halloween. So, and I remember being Optimus Prime one time, and it was a Captain Crunch box for the head, and it's painted, so it's just a square.
There's nothing wrong with using cardboard and duct tape to make a costume.
Exactly. Well, no, great, anything. So I was always good about that kind of thing.
My mom was not so creative with the costumes and didn't make a lot. I was a witch for about 5 years in a row. Just because my mom didn't want to make a costume. I just went and recycled the same costume.
I've got an ancient photo of me. I don't even know how old I am. Me and my one brother were Ninja Turtles.
Oh, nice.
I do not know where she got the foam. We had full shells. We had green bodysuits. I don't know where she got. I think actually, no, it wasn't a bodysuit. It was green sweatpants and a green sweater or something. I can't. This was so long ago. It only exists in this 2 photos. I don't remember this at all. But yeah, now God only knows where she learned sewing from her mom, and then just was like, well, fabric, cardboard, tape, paint.
Let's go.
Exactly.
Oh, and that's the best way to do it. And I can see that's probably where you got your creativity from, because obviously with LARP you have your own costumes that you'll create for your character to really get into that persona.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I wish I could say I've created more. I'm still learning. I joke when people ask me, "Oh, did you make this?" I was like, "Oh, no. I'm a noble. I pay people to make things for me."
Well, that's also a perk.
Yeah, it's I have friends. I have a lot of friends who are very talented, in leatherworking and sewing and whatnot. And I've tried, and I'm still trying to get into that. Unfortunately, my creativity is in slightly different areas than that. Than crafting with leather and cloth. I'm a little better with other materials, thermoplastics and metal. So, and whatnot. And so I'm still learning to properly sew. I've made several projects. I've got a hood and mantle that I still use today for wind and sun. I've made several tabards, one for me and then 2 for 2 other friends. and I got a half cloak that just covers like the half shoulder piece with an interesting trim I managed to find. I get a lot of my fabric from the thrift stores.
It's a good place.
Yep.
I have a skirt that I made out of a tablecloth.
Hey, it works.
Yeah, it was already circular. I just had to figure out how to cut the opening.
Yeah, what is it? Putting the holes in.
It's a lot easier to make a skirt when you've got just fabric and you put it together with a zipper than the fabric already being all created all together. That was a little bit challenging.
Yeah, when I made the my tabards, there's 2 lengths, and then you have the hole in the middle. But the problem is if you don't cut the hole correctly, like I did on one of them, I was like, this one's mine because I screwed it up. It was actually, I'm like, okay, well, in my head, with the neck and whatnot, you don't want it to be like,
yeah, you want to be able to choke. You want to be able to breathe.
But the funny part is I didn't copy the hole correctly over, so it was actually wide enough to go around my waist. And I ended up having to add some more material. So I had I didn't have a tabard. I had this weird kind of skirt thing. I was just like, no, that doesn't work. Added some more material back in to make it so it wouldn't just whoop.
So the first time I made something that I was trying to put the headpiece in, I made it too short. So I'm trying to put it on and it will not go over my head. And I had to keep cutting it open. And finally, but then at first I realized that I made it so it was strangling me. And I was like, okay, this isn't going to work. It was a very fun piece to do.
I bet. Sewing is interesting.
Yes.
I'm still getting into that. I want to move more into leatherworking eventually.
Leatherworking can be challenging because you need specific needles and stuff.
Tools are...
Yeah, my sewing machine actually has a leather needle.
Oh, nice.
To sew, but it's still very... And I think you are limited on your thickness for those ones. But, I could try it one day.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a beast of a machine. It's my mom's old one that she got when she got married.
Those ones live forever.
Yeah, it's a 1963. This thing is a beast.
Well, I will outlive you and your family.
Feels like that. I've run it. I've done some pretty interesting projects with it. I'm not the world's greatest sewer, but
who is?
People that do it regularly for a living.
Yes. I say this, who is normally? And I have a friend that's an amazing sewer that's made most of her outfits. So
it works.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're choosing a character for whether it be Dungeons and Dragons or LARP, what went through your head? What was your process for choosing it? Was it based on your personality? Did you want to go completely into left field and do something completely different?
Starting when I was starting out, I liked to use different emotions.
Okay.
That I wanted to express more. For example, if anyone has read Dragonlance, I made it a mage that was a direct possible ripoff of one of the main characters in the beginning storyline, Raceland Magier. So I had a cranky, vaguely neutral, still a decent person, but kind of nefarious kind of thing. And that was me because I was like, ooh, this guy's cool because he's snarky and stuff, and snarky and very confident and whatnot. And I was short and not very confident and didn't have access to grand phenomenal magic powers. So it was kind of escapism into that. And then eventually I would move into more confident characters, the stand-up warrior or the elusive rangers, only stealing a little bit from Lord of the Rings there. And
one of my characters may or may not have basis in Lord of the Rings.
It's an amazing. It's great to they're almost the archetypes that things were created from.
Mm-hmm.
So people are like, oh, it's a stereotype, and I'm like, oh, stereotype just means commonly associated with. That's where it comes. That's it's not bad. Stereotypes aren't bad.
No, they can be, but they're not.
Tropes
meant to be.
are a little overused
Tropes
some
are
days, but yeah. As long as you're having fun. And also, even a stereotype is a good starting place. If you like the idea of something, but don't want to copy it wholesale, a stereotype is a great way to, your first step, and then you can evolve to what is comfortable for you from that point.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. When you make your characters, how important for you is a backstory?
Ooh. I like having at least a minimal backstory. Usually mine are like 2 pages long to start with, and then they work from there. I've always avoided the dead parent trope because I thought it was silly. And growing up on Disney movies, I always
It's almost overused.
yeah, and I never liked the oh my, you're playing D&D and you're like, oh, both my parents were killed and that's why I'm an adventurer. And then everyone's like, oh, Brock, what's your character? My character came from a loving family and decided to seek his fortune by picking a different trade. And they're just like, oh. And I'm like, yes. And I also, very importantly, do not give you permission to use my parents as a plot point.
This is true.
You have to be very firm with DMs because as soon as they find out somebody's written more than a page of backstory and they have living family members, they're like, ooh, blackmail, or I can kidnap them, and you have to tell them, no, that's off limits.
No, you can't
unless you have a really good storyline for it, no.
It's actually funny because when I did my first D&D campaign, and this was back in 2016, 2017, somewhere in there, I was the only one that came with a backstory to my character.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and of course the DM was like, well, why do you have it's because it fleshes out the character.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember all of it. It was not 2 pages. It was only about a paragraph. But it was just really interesting to see the dynamics because nobody had that type of, they didn't have any of that personality or that backstory that would lead them up to it. And I can't remember what my story was, but I don't think I had the dead parent trope. I think mine was more I was trying to prove myself or something like that.
Yeah, there's many different things you can go, but I just find it funny that when people, the DM will go around and it's like, hey, explain a little bit about your character, and they always they're like, I'm too tired of DMs using the family, so no family members. They're gone. Just no.
No, they are not.
I
they're
put them in and then be like, I do not give permission for you to use this. I wrote for one GURPS game. I had point form, like I think it was 4 double-sided pages of just things about him because these characters were supposed to be more advanced than first level. They were a bit higher. So I wrote all this whole thing. Well, I had some music going and a really good playlist going, and I was just making up this guy's like life and what happened to him before then. It was, I still remember most of it. It was great. And then of course the guy looks at it and goes, wow, you wrote a lot. And then he smiles and I'm like, no. It's like, no.
When the DM smiles, it's already too late.
Yeah, I was just like, no, you can't use, because I had given him, what is it? I had said that I went with the, to add flavor, this character had an ex-wife. And so I was just, because it was supposed to be, this wasn't a kid. This was, I made a 30-year-old guy.
Yeah.
Or 30-something-year-old guy. It was a 30-something-year-old police officer. Or something like that. And then who then gets sucked into multiversal jumping and stuff, and he becomes psychic or something like that. And I was like, no. He's like, here's the whole life, and then here's where the game starts, because he had said you get pulled away from wherever you were, so you have to have a life before that. And everyone's like, oh, 2 paragraphs here, and I'm like, just frantically writing this guy's backstory, and he's like, no, you cannot touch his, you can't go after that.
It can definitely make for some interesting gameplay when you get backstory and such. In the most recent game that I've played, I had to make up my backstory kind of on the spot to introduce myself to the characters, and so we developed what we called the Kaleidoscope of Wonders. I played Riffs, and I was a techno wizard.
Ooh.
But with how the dice rolled for selecting everything, I was a techno wizard that really couldn't fix anything. So it doesn't work, but I was really good at making the Kaleidoscope of Wonders. And if you stared into the kaleidoscope, it was sort of like giving you your wildest fantasy, but in like a kaleidoscope format. And people have been known to die getting sucked into the Kaleidoscope of Wonders because they just sit there.
Yeah.
And they just go catatonic. And that was the one part. But making that character up on the fly was actually really challenging. And then, joining the rest of the team. And when I first joined, because we got pulled into this portal and I landed on this random elven ship in the middle of the sky. It was a flying ship. And the first guy that I meet offers me just a clove of garlic. and True. Okay, what's gonna happen? I ate the garlic. Nothing bad happened, fortunately.
Other than eating a clove of garlic.
Other than eating a clove of garlic, but...
I miss Riffs. That was always fun. I liked playing the juicers.
We did have a character that was I was a former juicer. So he was a juicer and that was no longer taking the meds that he was supposed to. He was quite interesting to play with.
I remember that game. They had what is it? I played the Hyperion Juicer, which was the Speed Freak, and in that book, in one of the books, it had a slang for the juicers used, and I remember just reading that and then throwing it into conversations and stuff during the games, and people were like, "What?" And I'd be like, "Book."
Well, and for the longest time, I didn't realize that my character came with like this really awesome power armor. So now we have a running joke with it that I can fold it up into a really shiny Rubik's Cube.
Nice.
It looks like a Rubik's Cube made out of diamonds.
That's cool.
Yeah. and it's really, really handy to have because I've lost my weapons and my armor, and at least with the cube I can bring it back to me.
Yeah, just like here.
Yeah, shoo! Come back to me.
Nice.
Yeah, it's definitely been a fun game. But speaking of games and characters, what about naming characters? Does that make or break a character for you?
I've come up with some weird names, and I've come up with names that don't fit settings before. It's really just what you want to be called, really. My LARP character, I ended up using a name that I created when I was 14. It's a mix of 3 people's names, one of them being my own. And I just sat there in art class, not drawing, and playing with these 3 names and flipping the letters around just on this sheet of paper until I came out with one that I liked. I liked the way it looked, and it sounded a little Russian, kind of something. It's Vesko. So,
Vesko, yeah, that does sound a little Russian.
It just has that in there, but it's it's really funny. As I'll even tell you where the 2 other names are. Because it's very, nobody really knows. It's a combination of my name, Brock, the name from my first D&D character, who is based off of Raceland Magier, and one of my favorite cartoon characters, Dragon Ball Z, Vegeta.
Nice.
And I mixed those 3 names until I came out with something I found interesting. So Vesko has all the same, it has the letters of all of them. Well, not all of them, but you know.
It has the letters and the sound, and yeah.
And then, it's my username everywhere online, basically.
I never thought about doing that for a character name. I usually just kind of flip through like the random name generators and find one.
Some of those are amazing. Like, if I'm building characters for certain games, I can. Great. I had a campaign that went on, and then we eventually played the characters' descendants, and I made plays on their names. One guy was Alexander Lutherus. So
it sounds very Roman.
Yeah, he was a Roman. But the even funnier part, the reason I added that in on it, because I wanted to see, and nobody over the course of several years figured out that I created Lex Luthor from the Superman's bad guy.
I see it. I'm making the connection.
Yeah, I know, but nobody. And then eventually, this guy became sort of a stand-up person. I'm like, well, the joke no longer lands, so I'm just not going to tell anyone.
It could just be one of those weird flips, multiverse flips.
Exactly.
Got to be a universe somewhere where Lex Luthor is, a good person.
Oh, definitely. But I've seen lots of people, and they're trying to figure out the names of things. I find it a little bit easier for people to pick a name in LARP than it is in a D&D game or role-playing game, because people are like, oh, it's got to embody something, versus in LARP it's like, what can I be called that I'm going to remember that is my name? Or
that is important. And what can people call you and pronounce, like, can they pronounce it?
And then if you have a longer name, what are they going to be able to shout that you're going to remember? Because some people have, when they shout for me, they say Vi. So I have to be listening because shouting Vesko over a field sometimes is a little harder for people, so they shout Vi.
Which ironically means go in Portuguese.
Oh, nice.
So you're running away, they're kind of encouraging you.
But yeah, so we've had some people come up and who have joined in the last bit, and they finally come up with their names, and they're just like really cool stuff, and it's great. And then because like I say, you have to. What is it going to get? You're going to get your name is going to be shouted eventually. So if it's too long, they're going to shorten it, and
those are things that you don't think about in D&D, because you either don't get called by your name at all, or you get. If you do, you don't have to yell it.
Exactly, because you're rolling dice, and you can say, Legolas, watch out, instead of in the middle of combat going, Elf, look out, or something short.
And of course, that doesn't help if you've got like 5 elves on the field. They're all gonna go, what are you talking about? So it makes it, and yeah, I suppose it would make it very interesting when you're playing with that character, because it's easier you're in that role. When you're playing live action, you become that character for the hour or two that you're out on the field. You are that character. You are that backstory.
Exactly. It's got to be a good name.
It's got to be a good name, and it's got to be a name that you like too. This is where you can really get those pseudonyms. You know, if you hate your name in real life, this is where you can go with whatever name you want that fits you.
Exactly. It's a lot of fun. I am. In the LARP community, it's hilarious to be known more for your LARP name than your real name, and the only reason some people know each other's real names is because of Facebook. Yeah. And you contact somebody and they're like, "Hey," and they're like, "Who are you?" And then you type in your LARP name and they're like, "Ah, you!
I know you."
It's like, "Oh, how's it going? I had no idea who you were because I've never heard your real name spoken before or seen it." I've actually, funny enough, I put a LARP photo as my profile picture on Facebook just to make that easier.
That makes sense, though. It'd be one of those things, if you only ever see people on the LARP field in costume, you run into them in the grocery store, and you walk right by them. Or you get the look of, I know you.
Do you look familiar?
You look familiar.
It's a very different look.
It is a very different look. And usually I've got a wig on, so I'm a different color hair. I don't recommend wigs.
Maybe in the future. I'm running out of hair. Get one of those flowing Fabio ones after I'm completely bald.
Well, make sure you get a good one.
Yeah, definitely. Be on the field. It's like, yes, Vasco is here to save you. My long flowing locks.
Vasco, your hair color has changed.
It's magic.
Right. It's magic. I tell you, it's magic. And then you could just really mess with people. You have multiple different color wigs.
Exactly.
And you could go like curly hair one day, straight hair another.
I've never had long hair before, so it's gonna be so weird when I eventually try.
I should have brought one of my wigs. We could have tried it on, see what you look like.
Definitely would have done that.
We'll do it for FanCon next year.
Sounds good.
As we digress from LARP and such, but it sounds like the LARP community is really good, and it's a really good divergence. And you don't have to be somebody who's done drama to do it. You just have to go out and have fun with it. And within the LARP community, like, you get to go to bigger events. Like, I know there's a big one I know in like Montreal or somewhere around back east.
Everywhere that hosts a park or hosts a LARP park has the ability, since we're part of a kingdom, we actually pay dues to the kingdom because we're classified as a society or a nonprofit, food drives and all that stuff. Our membership dues, which allow us to vote on anything, part of them gets sent to the kingdom, and then the kingdom has a coffer which can be used to help fund an event, and then they make the money back by ticket sales and whatnot. But so every part, Prince George has put on a couple of them, and Kamloops has had an ongoing one for longer than I can remember, and Edmonton also has one. The Lower Mainland, I can't remember where in the Lower Mainland the other one. It started up in the last couple of years, so I'm not 100% on what their event is called. But we have in Kamloops, they have what their event is called Omens, and
sounds ominous.
Yeah, it usually takes place in the Feywilds of some kind, in a Fey world, and then they have where they rent out an area, and you camp out, and then there are quests to do, and you can do, and People put these on every year. So they're smaller groups, so you have only like 100 or so, give or take, on an area, with questing volunteers being monsters and other players and whatnot. And then your parties get to go through and experience this all. And then when the day is done, people hang out around their tents and we all hang out and eat and whatnot. The one in Edmonton is called Circles of Fate. And then the Prince George one has been, oh dear, what was it was called Sherwood.
Okay.
And it's about you have your event organizers put in bids to, like, this is what I want to do for this event, and then people vote. The park, the city that it's in, those LARPers get to vote whether or not they want to do that bid or another bid, and then when it goes through, the kingdom will assist and then make some money back. And you put them on. Omens has had. I just went to there actually just recently. I had to miss Circles of Fate because we had the Ren Fair in Prince George was at the same time. So, and I had promised to help be at the Ren Fair, so I couldn't go to Circles. But no, Omens has, for example, they do it on a rodeo ground in Barrier. They actually move over to just a Barrier real quick, and they use a rodeo ground. So there's a full kitchen to use, and we have our members the volunteers are called Crats. CRATS. So you have Autocrat in charge of everything, Feastocrat, food, Questocrat.
Nice.
So they have, they've had Feastocrats in charge of all the food and whatnot. Then you had the questing, which was actually done by a person in town, volunteered to do it and do the writing for it in Barrier, which was awesome. And then you have everything else, and then it's just a whole group of people doing these events in character, and then afterwards getting to hang out and whatnot, and just have a great time.
It sounds like it would be a lot of fun.
It's amazingly large amounts of fun. I love doing them. I love to do one a year if I can a minimum of one a year.
Minimum of one a year, if you can swing the time off from work.
Exactly.
The mundane real world.
Yes, the one that funds the ability.
Yes.
Like, Brock's got to work so Vasco can have fun and conquer things.
Yes, wouldn't it be nice if we could win the lottery?
So much so, I'd build this huge thing, but that's a way younger.
That's a story for another day.
Exactly. So the events are put on every year, and then there's also down south in the States, they have Thousand Stars and whatnot, and Feast of Die Rock is another one. That's a big one for the Church of Light and the Church of Evil fighting each other at that one all the time.
Oh, that would be interesting.
And I don't recall the name of another one, but there's a lot of them, and they are not as big as some of the ones you hear from, like Bicoline and stuff way over, which only happens once every season or so, because they have a lot more volunteers, and
I've heard about Bicoline,
and more money, and it's on my bucket list to visit Bicoline.
Yeah, I know somebody who's actually been to Bicoline, and the stories.
Oh, can't wait. But yeah, no, so we have these events, and you get to, it's all up, and they're themed, so you know what you're getting into, because they'll explain the theme of what it's going to be. So, and then you just purchase your ticket, and then you show up, throw your tents and stuff down, get dressed, and there's an itinerary saying, hey, the quest starts at this part and this part, then there's a break for food and whatnot, and then this block is for here, this is when, and then we hold court, and people get recognized for their contributions, and we hand out awards and scrolls, and knight people that have done the knighting is a big thing in our game. I actually got to knight somebody at Omens who had put in like more than a decade of work, of volunteering, of being in charge and whatnot. It was a great experience to be able to do that.
Nice. That sounds like a lot of fun. I do see that we are running out of time.
Oh,
so I
geez.
have one final. I know, right? It goes by fast. I do have one final question for you. If you could give one piece of advice to somebody who was maybe not sure if they were a nerd, they were kind of on the fence, what would it be?
just try.
Just try.
Just try. It's because honestly, as a person who used to be very small and very nerdy and very unconfident, the first step is the hardest. It's the steep step. It's the one that takes most confidence, and then basically you get one step, and then bam, you're going down the hill, and you're a nerd, and you're playing D&D, and you're playing riffs, and you're playing GURPS, and you're LARPing, and you're cosplaying, and you meet so many amazing people. But you got to take the first step, because being a nerd is glorious. It is freeing, and you just got to get out there, get the first step, find your people, and just everything is great.
I like it. It's sound advice. Sound advice. Just try.
Mm-hmm. Just try. And if it doesn't work the first time, try again with a different group.
Yeah. There's multiple different subcultures within the nerd community.
And all are welcoming that I've come across.
I've never come across one that's been like, hey, no.
Yeah.
All of them are very welcoming.
Oh, and as time goes on, the gender divide gets smaller and smaller to the point where it's even better. The LARP communities are giving such a surge of non-male members. It is truly amazing because everyone brings something unique to the surroundings, to their environments.
That's good to know. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Brock. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
And have fun with the LARPing.
I will. I'll see you out there sometime.
One day I will make it out there. So now we head to the portion of our show where we have our confessional. This is where our guest gets to tell a funny, embarrassing, either or, doesn't have to be both, story about themselves and something that just brings them joy.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. The first fan con I attended, the first one, and I was there as the costume contest, and I chose to be a space cowboy from Star Wars. It was going to be a bounty hunter, but it ended up space cowboy. And I remember standing in line and making friends. And then when the music queued up, I realized I was going to try to do a flip, a little spin, and I had never practiced before. So as I'm moving around and looking cool and whatnot, I tried to spin my Nerf pistol in my hand, and it bounced off my bracer and went from a clockwise spin to a counterclockwise spin, and one of the judges started laughing and covered his mouth and pointed because he was the only one that saw my screw up. But I managed to cover it up. And then, yeah, great friends from that.
Relax and zen.